Some people like to play chess with stuff shoved up their at one of the biggest regular chess tournaments in the whole world. They have military grade scanners set up at the door. They're looking for beats. Magnus is the highest ranked chess player in history. In September 2022, Magnus's opponent can't make it to the tournament because of a visa issue. The replacement is this little 19-year-old named Hans Niemann. Hans is also the lowest ranking chess player at this tournament. He's basically the worst of the best here. Magnus plays an opening that he's only ever played a few times before. So that could mean that he's so confident right now that he's literally around. Hans is playing to win. Instead of playing defensively, he's using an aggressive playing style. And by the middle of the match, you can see Magnus looking genuinely concerned. Hans makes one last move. Magnus reaches out over the board, and instead of moving one of his pieces, he extends his hand to shake with Hans.
No.
He surrenders.
Lost.
Afterwards, Magnus goes onto Twitter to share his thoughts and feelings about his loss out of 53 wins. He lost his winning streak. I've withdrawn from the tournament. I've always enjoyed playing in the STL Chess Club and hope to be back in the future. Okay. Why would you withdraw from the tournament just because you lost a game? He literally tells us. Magnus then posts a meme after this, and this is a very unserious, a meme of this man where he says, I prefer really not to speak. If I speak, I'm in big trouble.
If I speak, I am in big trouble.
Netizens start to speculate that Magnus is hinting that Hans Niemann has cheated because why else would he withdraw? It almost seems like he's making a statement. But how do you even cheat in chess? But a day after Magnus withdraws, the other chess players in the tournament notice something very strange is happening. The next day when they show up, military grade scanners at the door. Okay. What was the reason? And it seems like the security officials are spending a lot of time on people's. A day after the tournament, Hans does an official interview with the Sinkfield Cup hosts. And Hans is absolutely determined to prove that he beat Magnus fair and square. He shows up to the interview looking determined. He says, now this is very interesting. He said, and I quote, I studied Magnus, all of his chess games and his interviews, and he said that if he spends more than 10 minutes on a game, it's a very bad sign. Magnus did that a lot in our game.
What the Are you okay?
So that
he did exactly that.
Pretty much. So that boosted my confidence. He starts going.
He's licking his lip and everything.
Yes. Netizens comment that Hans is just very unlikable in this interview. On one hand, it makes sense. He's 19 and known to talk shit, and he just beat Magnus Carlsen. Of course, he's going to be a little excited. But on the other hand, he does come off pretty arrogant. But anyway, the interviewer tells Han, I think we should address the elephant in the room.
Really?
Hans is more than ready to face the elephant. The interviewer pulls up the chessboard again, and Hans starts going through every single move that he played against Magnus and why. I'm just analyzing his body language and like looking at the way that he's talking. I mean, he's becoming very vocal, and at one point he even says, it's not a miracle, it's just me being very tedious about going through all the moves he could have played in my head, and I think that's the main thing, and and then he trails off. And then the interviewer, he just keeps going on these rants, right? Now, I watched another chess player, Gotham Chess, break it down on the Lex Friedman podcast, and he said that a lot of chess players were skeptical of the way that Hans described his moves. And they said that Hans was describing chess in a way that nobody that plays chess well describes chess. And without any prompting, in any way or shape or form, Hans starts readdressing the cheating rumors. And he says, I did cheat when I was 12 years old.
Okay. But have they talked about the elephant yet?
Yeah, and he was just like, I just studied. He also said something.
Wait, what do you mean? I thought the elephant is... Yeah, did they talk about that or no?
But they will in a different interview.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, also here's another thing. He said that right before the game, he happened to study a Magnus Carlsen game where Magnus did that exact opening that he did to Hans. People were sussed about that because he's only ever done that like once or twice before this. And they were not like big games that everyone was like, that was a fucking memorable game. What are the odds?
Right. Okay.
Now, right after Magnus withdrew from the cup, Hans gets banned from chess.com, which is like the biggest chess website. They pretty much are like the organization behind chess. And he's no longer allowed to use the website. But that's not the only problem. Chess.com is probably one of the biggest sponsors of basically every big chess tournament in the world. So if they've got beef with Hans, that could threaten his entire career.
They banned him for what reasons, though?
He admitted to cheating on chess.com once.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, then.
Yeah, Hans tells the interviewer, like, unfortunately, there's been a targeted attack. And now he's still going on 8 minutes straight yapping, okay? Now, in case you're wondering, no one is asking him to address this, but he specifically says, after the game, Magnus puts out a tweet. Obviously, some insinuations. I get an email from chess.com saying that they privately removed access to my account, and now they have uninvited me from the global chess game. Now, 3 days ago, I met with someone very high up at chess.com at the Sinkfield Cup, and he had some amazing words. But because of this game against Magnus, because of what he said, they have decided to completely remove me from the website. A lot going on right now. But he says the entire social media chess world is attacking me, and maybe they think I have to be afraid, or I would be afraid to tell the entire world that I cheated at some random games, but I'm not afraid because I know who I am. So I will not be manipulated and conspired against to try and ruin my chess career when I know what happened.
Okay.
Okay. Now, there's two sides to this. One group of people who are saying, Hans was just a little nervous. He's just a boy. He didn't cheat. He's really good at chess. He does seem really good at chess. Another group of people think Hans is lying to cover up the fact that he cheated. But don't take your clamps off, okay? Because Hans and Magnus are going to play each other again.
Oh, really?
2 weeks after this whole drama unfolds, there is an online tournament this time. So not over the board, it's not face to face, but it's still a professional game. There's 2 mediators, there's a whole audience watching this, a whole stream. The match is being live streamed, so the screen is split into 2 parts. On the left, you see the chessboard with the white pieces at the bottom and the black pieces on the top, and then the right side of the screen is split into 4 windows, and each window shows you one of the people who are on the live stream, the 2 mediators and the 2 opponents, Hans and Magnus. Hans is looking stressed. He's holding his forehead. He's kind of fidgeting a little bit. And the top right corner is Magnus. And he's streaming from his bedroom, but he looks locked in. He's barely moving. He's just laser focused on the screen. And on the bottom of the screen are 2 commentators. Match starts. Hans is white this time. He plays pawn to d4. Magnus makes his first move. Knight onto f6. Hans moves another pawn forward. Nothing to see here, right? Literally, less than 2 seconds after Hans moves the second pawn on screen, you see 2 words pop up. The words, Magnus lost. And one next to Hans. And the commentators yell, what? Magnus is staring into the soul of the camera without saying a word, just empty Batman Sigma stare, and then his screen goes black. Magnus just forfeited and lost the game, disconnected from the stream in less than 10 seconds.
Ooh, why?
Magnus resigned. This feels like, again, he's trying to say this man is cheating.
Oh, this is a message?
Feels like it. And then he does another interview where he laughs and says people can draw their own conclusions, and they certainly have. What does that mean?
This is where he's using his 190 IQ on?
Yeah. Honestly, think about being in a relationship with someone like that. Then he adds, I have to say, I'm very impressed by Hans Niemann's play, and I think his mentor, Maxim Dlugy, I'm so sorry, D-L-U-G-Y, is a Russian last name.
D-L-U-G-Y.
Maxim D must be doing a great job. Maxim is a Russian chess player famous for calling out cheaters and then calling out himself because he gets banned for cheating. The real goes down on Twitter though. So Magnus makes a statement that is so long it exceeds every character limit. He has to screenshot it and post it as a PNG. He says, I believe that Hans Niemann has cheated more and more recently than he has publicly admitted. His over-the-board progress has been unusual, and throughout our game in the Sinfield Cup, I had the impression that he wasn't fully tense or even fully concentrating on the game in critical positions, while outplaying me as black in a way I think only a handful of players could do.
Okay, so he's saying the dude is too relaxed.
Yeah,
at all the wrong times.
and then his progression into becoming better at chess on the board just doesn't be making sense, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
He said, we must do something about cheating. And for my part going forward, I don't want to play against people that have cheated repeatedly in the past because I don't know what they are capable of doing in the future. There is more that I would like to say. Unfortunately, at this time, I am limited in what I can say without explicit permission from Neiman to speak openly. He signs it sincerely, Magnus Carlsen, world chess champion. He even writes in his statement that he considered withdrawing from the Sinkfield Cup before he ever played against Hans because I think he was suspecting something was going on there. So I don't know. It's just all so messy, right? It gets even messier because then Hans starts doing more interviews. Elon Musk's tweets. Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see because it's in your basically saying that he cheated. So why are beads a big deal in chess? The theory is that Hans was using vibrating beads up his to signal which moves he should play against Magnus. The theory starts as a random user's comment on a Twitch stream called Chessbra, because of course it does. Chessbra. But now it's a full-fledged conspiracy theory. And if you're wondering whether it's even possible to use beats to cheat in chess, it absolutely is. There's one YouTuber called Mike Boyd who actually engineered his own custom battery-powered assistant. He makes a very nondescript backyard plunger and rips it in half. Okay, he cuts into it. Then he scoops out the insides like he's preparing to stuff a squash. But instead of rice and minced meat filling, he fills it with a custom-made electronic receiver.
Okay.
He then super glues the pieces back together and the device ends up looking like it's seen some literally. But somehow it actually works. Here's how it works. Mike codes his own program that uses stockfish to predict the best chess move. Then the program sends a signal to the transmitter that's hooked to the computer, and the signal travels to the receiver. So someone is watching the game, they're inputting it into stockfish, and then the signal is going into his...
Yeah. It's a remote control.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Mike then gets a chess player with a high elo to play him while Mike's wife sits behind the camera and secretly inputs all of his moves, and Mike feels out the vibes to see which moves he should play next. He literally feels...
Wait, he put it in?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
There are a lot of dedicated YouTubers out there to their craft. Now, Mike does win the game, but netizens are not impressed. This is one of the many comments. I will refuse to believe any of the device's result until someone actually puts it in its intended spot. Mike did not use the backyard plunger in his... Apparently, he put it in his shoe. Josh and Archie see this beat story going around, and Archie's like, I think our channel needs... I think our viewers would really want either of us, to put it up the butt. They order a Wii Vibe plug in the color purple that costs exactly $90. So they rent out a whole studio to film this, and they invite a chess grandmaster to the studio and pretend they're filming a documentary on something very serious like just chess. Now, before the game is supposed to start, Archie grabs the and an unreasonably large tub of and walks into the restroom. He steps in and he closes the door behind him. Archie painfully sits down across from a chess grandmaster named Daniel, who's been playing professionally for 6 years. They shake hands. The whole match broadcasted to Josh, who is sitting in an adjacent room putting stockfish to analyze the match, using the remote control to send signals to Archie's root canal. And Archie has to focus really hard to feel every pulsation down there so he can know his next move. And after a few minutes, Archie starts to get red in the face. He's rubbing his nose, shifting around in his chair. He's drenched in sweat, but it all pays off because he actually manages to beat a grandmaster. And the poor guy looks so confused, but he looks even more confused after they reveal plug. But
Hans had nothing, no sweats, he's like chilling.
He's chilling.
Cool as a cucumber.
But shortly after this, an adult website offers Hans $1 million if he agrees to play a game of chess. So this cheating thing goes even more viral. And now Hans is on a Piers Morgan interview and he's sitting there. This is so very unserious. Okay, the whole thing, his attorney is sitting next to him. His attorney, Hans is bringing on his attorney to interviews now because that 43 minutes did a number, okay? So his attorney is there. The attorney has way too much hair gel on and it's just, they look goofy. Hans is glancing around the room like he did not prepare for this and he's stuttering. Well, considering the recent case, some legal questions my lawyer might be better able to answer. He's not just a lawyer, he's a friend and a confidant and someone I fully trust.
I feel like he rehearsed that.
Yeah.
Line.
So
who talks like that? He's my confidant.
It's a little weird. So Piers Morgan is like, okay, let's just rip the bandage off. Beats, yeah?
Damn.
And then he's got the facial expression of a 14-year-old looking just very distressed. And he basically says, fuck the haters. I'm motivated now to play even better and I'm going to have a $10,000 scholarship I'm giving away. And Piers Morgan is like, okay, but just to be clear, you didn't cheat. Of course not. So what have you had to learn if you didn't cheat? The experience was all the chess world crashing down on me. Just to be clear on the specific allegation, have you ever used beads while playing chess? Your curiosity is a bit concerning. Maybe you're personally interested, but I can tell you no.
Yeah, I'm very curious.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what he says.
Okay.
Yeah. And then he says, okay, so categorically, no, you have not. Hans lets out a breathy laugh like you just popped a balloon. And he said, of course, yes. No.
Of course, yes.
No.
Well, he said, of course, yes.
He goes, of course, yes. No. He's so unserious, okay? So then Piers is like, do you think you could win Magnus Carlsen if you play him again? And Hans says, I'll let my chess speak for itself. Now, Hans, he decides to file a lawsuit, 44 pages long, against chess.com and Magnus. So I'm going to summarize it. He's basically suing them for $100 million, allegedly trying to ruin Hans' career in the lawsuit, is what he said. He also calls Magnus a sore loser. Chess.com unbanned him.
Hans dropped the lawsuit?
Yeah, and chess.com unbanned him, and he's been doing well on chess.com. He has a ranking of number 3 on the platform at one point.
He's back?
He's back.
On chess.com?
Yeah, and real life tournaments, and he's been playing pretty well. His elo is sitting at 2,700, which is nothing to scoff at. He's even been beating some top ranking chess players, so I don't know. He actually is a very good chess player.
Wait, so even, like, I'm sure they're checking,
Yeah,
and he's killing it.
he's killing it.
Wow.
So, I mean, the chess community is divided.